What's up, everybody? Welcome to Fun is Gaming. My name's Seth, and today we're talking about Tinykin. Tinykin is a colorful and whimsical third-person platformer that utilizes creative level designs alongside Pikmin-esque mechanics to create a game that simply is a great time. It is developed by Splashteam and published by tinyBuild. Tinykin was released on August 30th, 2022, and is available now on Steam, PlayStation, Switch, and Xbox, and it's available on Game Pass. I played on Series X through Game Pass. Tinykin is a really cute, laid-back experience free from stress and filled with good-natured lightheartedness. I will go ahead and answer the central question here. Is it fun? Yes, absolutely. I had a blast playing Tinykin. Before we get into the review of the game, if you're interested in game tips, other reviews, and analysis, hit that subscribe button to hear my take on what games are fun and to help you make your mind up as you look for games to play or buy. Now let's continue on and talk about the plot of Tinykin. You play as Milo, who is an astronaut returning to Earth from the planet Aegis. But he's really tiny and things aren't quite how they should be. Namely, everything seems to be frozen in the year 1991, and he is surrounded by bug creatures. The goal of each level is to acquire an item from these different bug groups that can be used to assemble a machine to get Milo back home. Now on to gameplay. Each level is essentially a room in a house. You navigate it as a super small character. It produces a really amusing and delightful atmosphere as you have to figure out ways to climb up stacks of toilet papers or desks, or you're crawling under sofas. At first, each new level can be a little bit overwhelming, but I was able to find my bearings pretty quickly, especially once I determined what objects I was actually traversing. Most of the levels will introduce to you a new kind of Tinykin, each coming with different powers. You'll find Tinykin that can move heavy objects. There are Tinykin that are bombs, ones that can stack on top of one another, allowing you to reach high places, and others. The controls and the movement in the game are very enjoyable. Adding to the charm and the fun of the game, your sprint is actually you sliding around on a bar of soap. It's pretty funny, but it works really well and it fits nicely with the game. You can use it also to slide over these silk lines, allowing you to traverse great distances that really help you navigate each level. The levels are fairly big, but these silk lines often connect to a central point that you can use to get to the different parts of the level a little more easily. You also have a double jump that deploys a bubble, allowing you to float a distance based on how many bubbles you've unlocked. As you progress, the puzzles and the exploration become more interesting as you piece together what you've learned to solve puzzles and collect pollen. Pollen is the currency that you use. If you collect enough pollen on each level, you can use that to unlock an additional bubble. More bubbles let you float longer. A lot of the puzzles throughout the levels relate to side quests, many of which you will likely accidentally discover while playing naturally. One thing that I really liked about these side quests is that you could unlock them by either finding the items related to the side quests, or you could actually find a quest giver and do it in kind of a more traditional RPG style. Each level had 2 or 3 side quests for the most part, and each side quest rewarded a collectible. Many of the side quests made me laugh out loud, and some of them were very, very funny. I overall felt that the side quests were very worthwhile. In addition, each level has 2 goals related to pollen. Again, that's the currency. I mentioned the first already, which allows you to get that bubble upgrade. And then there's a second pollen goal on every level, which rewarded an achievement. I found some of those to be pretty difficult to do, to collect all the pollen on a single level. Now let's talk about the technical aspects of the game. Everything about this game is lighthearted and leans toward comical, from the art style to the concepts to the quests. The visuals are a very pleasant 2D art style overlaying a 3D world. It's a very colorful world. It's a very colorful game. I think that suits the tone of the game really well. I did have moments though where I dropped significant frames even on the Series X. These were noticeable, but they were never really too distracting to interfere with gameplay. The sound design overall is really nice. There's not voice acting, but there are fun and different distinct sound effects. Each of your Tinykin makes different sounds, and each level has 1 or 2 tracks that will play. But honestly, the bass tracks for each level can get a little bit repetitive because you will be spending a considerable amount of time on several of the levels. But overall, the sound is really good. Now for some final thoughts. For those looking for a challenging platformer that requires quick reactions and chaining moves together, Tinykin might disappoint you. This game is not really challenging at all. There are a few puzzles that can take you a little while to figure out, and some of the side quests that can be hidden, but really, there's not anything in the game that requires a ton of skill to perform. If you're looking for some challenges in collecting items, collecting pollen throughout each level, there is some replayability here, and that will appeal to a lot of players. Most players will likely spend 6 to 8 hours playing through Tinykin. My playthrough was at about 7.5 hours. I completed all the side quests on each level, and I collected all the pollen on several levels, but I did not spend extra time collecting the pollen on all of the levels. I felt the length of the game was really good. Just as I was starting to get bored of a level, something new would be introduced or I would finish it. About the time I was kind of ready to move on to another game, I reached the end of this game, and so it never really felt like a drudgery. It really was a lot of fun. I never really got tired of the game or bored with it, although certainly collecting everything on each level can make it a little more repetitive. While there are some similarities to Pikmin, the greater platforming mechanics are closer to something like Banjo and Kazooie. This game is not punishing at all. Even if you die by falling too far or getting electrocuted in water, you'll respawn. You don't lose any currency. You don't really lose any time. You just restart at the last ground you were on. All of this contributes to the environment that the developers were pretty clearly aiming for. It's obvious that they set out to create a game for players to enjoy. And Tinykin is that. It is a game that you can enjoy. I had a great time in my playthrough, and I would recommend this to anybody who is looking for a lighthearted 3D platformer with creative level design and interesting mechanics. Let me know in the comments below. Have you tried Tinykin yet? What did you think about the game? Or do you plan on trying it? Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you have a great day and have fun out there.